they're doing op-ed research on Ted Cruz, and I laughed because it just occurred to me how absolutely ridiculous it is for them to spend donor money that they probably got from conservative donors to do op-ed research on a conservative senator.
For the record, and this is, you know, we're right here around Virginia, and forgive me, I'm going to kind of like bring it to Virginia here for a second. I mean, it's also worth noting that Bill Bolling, who was the lieutenant governor for Virginia, who was passed over for governor for Cucinelli, came out and basically denigrated you know, Ken Cucinelli was running for governor of the Republic. I mean, this is the sitting lieutenant governor. So it's
an incredibly important point, because that race, I believe, will be determined by enough of the grassroots being turned off and going to a libertarian candidate who's really not really running much. I mean, he's out talking to people. Is polling at 8 to 10%. Some polls is that the grassroots and a lot of people are feeling so much frustration with the establishment and how this. And that's what Ken Cucinelli, Ken Cucinelli is a great cause conservative and a terrific guy. I really think.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. One last question.
Need a microphone? Thanks. Nigel Ashford, I'm with the Institute of Humane Studies. We're a libertarian education organisation for students and young people. Bill's paper identified two key demographics: youth and Hispanics. Young people tend to be socially liberal, especially on things like gay marriage. Hispanics tend to be socially conservative on things like gay marriage. Now I'm hoping that young Hispanics will become more socially liberal, like other young people, but I might be wrong. How do we talk about social issues in a way that will appeal both to young people and to Hispanics?
All right.
Actually, a poll was released not too long ago, and forgive me, I forget the name, but it showed that the longer that Hispanics are away from their birth country or generationally removed, they become more socially liberal. So what you're seeing is that today's young Hispanics are becoming more socially liberal. You're seeing a lot of gay gay rights movement activists in the young Hispanic community. You're seeing a lot of that. The Libertarian Initiative, we only work with economic issues, so we don't really talk about social issues unless it somehow we tie it directly back to economic issues. So, but what we're seeing again is a lot of the young Hispanics. This is the biggest problem is, one, they don't know where we stand. They don't know where libertarians or conservatives stand on issues. They hear a lot of buzzwords, and a lot of them are angry, and they don't like that. Other than that, we're not getting our message through. They don't know what end the Fed means a lot of the time.
A lot of people don't know what end the Fed means. A lot of people don't understand the concept.
But that's a buzz phrase that we throw around all the time. People don't understand the implications of property rights, of limited government. And so what we're trying to do is go in and, again, you have to make it relevant on a day-to-day basis. You have to show how some policy is going to affect them every single day in order for them to care about it. As far as the social issues, like I said, they're becoming more liberal, for better or worse, depending on where you stand on that. But I think the key here to reach young people and Hispanics is through the message of economic freedom. But also, we need to make sure, like I know some of my other panelists disagree with me on this, but the messaging is really important. Yes. We don't need to change our principles. I've said this, I think, 4 times now on this panel. Stand by your principles, don't water them down, but the messaging is important. It really is. If I go to Hillsdale and I talk about ending the Fed, it's going to be a lot different than if I'm going to University of Texas, El Paso. Yep. So that's just something
Is there a difference between those two schools?
Yeah. So, you know, I would say definitely work for economic freedom. Again, Hispanics very entrepreneurial by spirit. A lot of the reason their family came here. Why? Start businesses, more economic opportunity. If you show that the economic opportunity is leaving and that we're becoming more like the countries of Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, you're going to get the attention. Again, Hispanics start businesses at 3 times the national average. I think Hispanic women start businesses at 6 times the national average. So these are issues that sincerely affect young Hispanics. Median voting age for Hispanics, 27. Median voting age for whites, 42. We're a young demographic, so the message of liberty and economic freedom is definitely the way to go. We just need to figure out the packaging and the messaging.
Excellent. What we're going to do is just briefly, I want to go down the line here and just let you guys have some parting shots and some parting ideas. It's something you want to, want us to remember, as you leave. So, Alex.
Well, and just to kind of tap into what you were saying, as a socially conservative Texas mom, that's between family and I, and our local community. When you have these big initiatives, you know, of the gay rights movement, and they're making it a social issue, and we're trying to figure out how to, you know, not be seen as on the wrong side. I think that goes down to a family issue, and when you take it down local, and you have moms and dads and grandparents talking about these issues in the family, I think it's going to take care of that issue, instead of letting the left drive the narrative that all the right cares about are these social issues. So take a hold of the narrative. I think that these kind of panel discussions are huge, but I also think it would be great to take it from here into small communities and bring in people like Lori from the Hill, so that they can put a name, you know, a face with these people. Because I think that that's what, you know, I'm behind my computer in Texas. I stay away from here. And so I think when you bring it into reality that these are people that are trying to make a difference and create those relationships, there's huge opportunity. We just have to take it.
Really?
I think my parting words would be, where to start? Okay, we're here talking about the future of conservatism. The future of conservatism is very similar to, hopefully, the future of America, in that I hope it will still be around, the conservative movement. America's browning. That's just reality. And we need to learn how to convey our principles and expand the base. We can squabble all day, and I love having policy discussions. They're immensely important. They're extremely important. But if there's only 5 people discussing these policy ideas while the rest of the country is voting, leftist, then they don't really do as much good, do they? So I think, you kind of talked about everyone has their own part to play. I think it's very important that we recognize that and that we support each other. Moving forward, we need to hone our message, yes, stand by our principles. We also need to learn how to communicate it more effectively. We're not going anywhere if we don't learn how to communicate it. And the constant fighting that's taking place on the public stage, it's so difficult to deal with. I'll never forget the one day I was mentoring. I mentor this group called Latinas Leading Tomorrow in Virginia. And I go to their after-school programs and I'll speak about issues in Virginia affecting them and like going to college, majoring, things like that. And they were just asking, the one woman was like, the one girl, Stephanie, she asked me, where do you stand politically? I might go into political science. And I told her, I'm a conservative and this is what I believe. And she's like, but Miss Brittany, you're Hispanic. How can you be a conservative? They hate us. They think we're all from Mexico and that we should all go back. And I was just like, oh, no, where did you hear that? But that message occurs all the time. And
she says she hears it.
On the news, you hear it from, or let's see, pundits. She mentioned that she heard, who is it from? I don't know.
It's almost built into the message in this.
Yeah,
it's. But I would venture to say, I encourage everyone, if you've got a child or grandchild or niece or nephew, go look at their curriculum that they're learning in school. Because the messaging is coming in through their curriculum.
Obama, of course, going to make it worse.
Yes.
All right, Lori. I'm sorry, no. Do you have any?
I'll briefly end on this. Get involved.
Yes.
I was part of the, I go to Young Republicans meetings occasionally, not to be Young Republicans. I think they could be a very great organization. But I think a lot of times conservatives get really wrapped up in having like happy hours, opposed to actually like going out and talking to people. And who doesn't love a great happy hour? But at the same time, when you're basically a drinking club, we're not really doing much for communities. And as far as the messaging, I know this is going to get me some blowbacks, but it's it's the end of the panel. So there are a lot of pundits out there who do more harm to the conservative movement than good. And I'm going to go ahead and say Michelle Malkin, Ann Coulter, Rush Limbaugh, sometimes while they have some really great points, and I agree with them probably 98% of the time on issues, when you hear tidbits of Rush Limbaugh dropped the N-bomb on his radio show, or Michelle Malkin screaming shamnesty, shamnesty, you know, Marco Rubio is the worst enemy to the conservative movement ever, like, it's not helpful. So, that kind of makes my job harder, for one. But two, it just doesn't help the conservative movement, and that's kind of what I was referring to about the selling outrage for profit. Is sometimes we scream things because we know it'll rile up the base and they'll give us money. That's fine.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to make like double everything that you just said. I think we're in complete agreement. I mean, I think what I find most frustrating about today in the narrative, both in Washington and around the country, is that, you know, I mean, I used to be liberal, right? I used to think that the government's, you know, the government created, I'm from Macon, Georgia, right? We have 26% single motherhood rate, a 27% poverty rate, 40% graduation rate in our public schools. These were government-created problems by, you know, segregation, Jim Crow law, all sorts of things, right? And in my mind, that meant that the government should fix the problems because the government created the problems. And it, you know, it took some soul-searching and a lot of, you know, honest thinking before I realized that really what you want is the most efficient actor to solve a problem, right? And the most efficient actor is very, very seldom going to be the government. And I think that we all agree on that, whether you're a conservative or a libertarian. And I think that the majority of the country actually does agree with that, whether they realize it or not. You know, there's all sorts of polling data that tells you that, you know, people think that problems should be solved at the community level. People are skeptical of government's ability to, you know, save their child's education or, you know, save the people living in poverty in their community. Yet they continually go to government for the answer. And I think a lot of it does have to do both with sort of just the growth of state over time and we become more comfortable with it, but also a lot of today has to do with the negative messaging and the infighting. And, you know, conservatarianism should be this big tent. We do have the answer for Hispanics. We do have the answer for young people. We do have the answer for women who, you know, are being told continually to lean in, lean in. This is the only message you get from the left. But that's like not really what women want. We want to just make our own choices. Have children, not have children. Go to work, don't go to work, right? Like the left is selling a bill of goods that women don't want, Hispanics don't want, and young people don't want. But I think that we get so focused on this is what that, you know, this is therefore the solution we have to advocate for, that we lose a ton of those people because we lose the respect for their unique individual circumstances. And that's what conservatism is supposed to be about, right? Like it's supposed to be about the individual, yet we don't want to listen to so many individuals from different circumstances who may be able to add something to the policy and community. So I think that we need to reach out more, we need to focus more, we need to, you know, practice messaging to, you know, different groups. You know, the good thing about technology today, like I said earlier, is you can send, I got tailored messages all the time from Barack Obama at exactly when I was going to read it with exactly what I wanted to read. And we don't really do that in the conservative movement because we don't really care what a lot of people want to read, honestly. And so I think that's one of our biggest problems, and hopefully I do think there are positive signs